Good morning, everyone. This is Dirty Jerz here, and welcome to the very first Dirty Jerz vlog. So, this isn't going to be something I do regularly. This is only going to be something I'm going to do when I feel there's something I want to vlog about, or if there's an event going on. And today's a perfect example. Today I finally have a day off, my first day off in a couple weeks. I've been doing kind of 7-day work weeks on top of all the DJing and on top of everything else. So, this is a great chance to relax and just focus on working on music. So today we're going to focus on making the episode 97 of my Jerzy Trash podcast. So we're going to go do a behind-the-scenes look on how I make my podcasts. And the reason for that is because I've got a lot of questions because of the nature of the podcast. It comes on every Friday from 8 to 9 on InvisibleSoundRadio.com. And some people wonder if I do it live every Friday night. Some people wonder if I just throw some music on Ableton and submit it. Neither of which are true, so I'm going to show you guys kind of the behind-the-scenes process, step by step, how I make these podcasts. And I felt that today was a beautiful day here in my apartment in Wheaton, Maryland, so I thought it was a great day to shoot for you guys. Now, before we can do anything, the very first step is the most crucial step. The most important step, the number one step. I cannot stress this enough. Come on. Now we're just going to stare down like gladiators. You're probably just wondering why I have a camera in his face. Look, they have tea lattes now.
Whoa.
I'm not even sure. Well, actually, I do know what that means. I'm a barista, but... I'm being made fun of for my use of coupons at Dunkin' by this lovely lady right here.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Right? I mean, that's $2 for a coffee and a bagel. And if I get hash browns, it's $3 for like a full breakfast. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Hi, how you doing? Can I just get a medium coffee with a mocha swirl and milk? And also a sesame bagel with cream cheese?
Okay.
And hash browns.
Anything else?
That's it. Adriana's favorite song in the world. She said, "Where'd you wanna go?" I'm being made fun of for my use of coupons at Dunkin' by this lovely lady right here.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Right? I mean, that's $2 for a coffee and a bagel. And if I get hash browns, it's $3 for like a full breakfast. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Alright guys, so step one, most important, got our Dunkin' breakfast. And my good friend over here, Adriana Del Castillo, one of my best friends in the world. On the frame?
No.
I'm really bad at...
There.
Clearly I'm really bad at this. Clearly I'm not very good at vlogs yet. So besides being one of my best friends, she's also a very talented vocalist, and look out for some tracks in the future. She might be featured in some of them. And she agreed to come with me and get some coffee this morning because she's the best. And
I didn't get any coffee though.
No, because she's not as fun as me. Because she was making fun of me for using coupons at Dunkin'. But you see all this right here? I don't even know if I'm getting in the frame properly. The coconut water is hers. But that coffee, those hash browns, and that bagel, $3 because of coupons. You're welcome. Thank you, Dunkin'.
I mean, you could feed a family with that, I guess.
And that's how I will feed my family with that in the future. But yeah. I'm not endorsing Dunkin', but I am endorsing Dunkin' if they're giving me money. There's actually Dunkin' radio, believe it or not.
Are you serious?
I've been in Dunkin's before where there's like a Dunkin' radio, and I'm like, I want to DJ for that.
Only on Dunkin' Radio.
Only on Dunkin' Radio. Oh, by the way, if you guys listen to Jerzy Trash, which you better, because that's what this podcast is kind of about, the behind the scenes, the only on Invisible Sound Radio.
Only on Invisible Sound Radio.
This lovely lady right here, like 3 years ago in my dorm, recording that. So, she's a part of history, always will be. I was actually going to start the podcast out here on the porch because it's nice out, but there's a lot of work being done, and there's ladders everywhere, and this morning people were working on my on our alarm system, fixing our air conditioning. I was sleeping. They were playing the alarm system, so I had a pillow over my head. And the guy just walked in while I was trying to sleep to check in on my smoke alarm or whatever it is, smoke detector, smoke alarm. I can't English today, and I'm not even sure if I'm pointing the camera at myself at this point. But
Expert vlogger.
right? No, but like he walks in and he's just straight up like, "Oh, sorry, sir, I was just checking out the smoke detector." I'm like, "Well, it works." All right, so now I've had some fun with some friends this morning. It's time to get started on the episode 97 of Jerzy Trash. I'm going to give you guys the step-by-step process on how I do my podcasts. So unlike my live sets where I play 100% freestyle, have no idea what I'm going to play when I get there, and during the sets have no idea what I'm going to be playing while I'm playing, the podcasts are very different because the goal of each podcast is to play new tracks every single week that I've never played before, the only exceptions being the live sets that I put on here, as well as themed episodes such as, maybe a trance episode or a trap episode or even, holiday theme, like a Halloween one. I'll play some stuff I've played before on the station. And the reason is that you don't want to keep playing the same tracks week in, week out. So what I have to do is I get new music every week. And when I say new music, I don't mean things necessarily that were released, this week or even this month. It could be stuff from back in the 90s even. It's more just, music I've not played on these podcasts before. And being this episode 97, I've played quite a lot of music, quite a lot of different styles. And I've had the opportunity to play quite a lot of different subgenres, which has allowed me to branch off and kind of, hone my own craft as a DJ. And it gives me a chance to add some extra elements to what I do. Now, Usually I tend to play around deep house, future house, tech house, and this week we're going back to that. We did about 4 weeks where it was the live set I played in Boston. So this week it's going to be the regular episode, and we're going to do a tech house set. So what I've done is have tracks here in my own playlist titled Jerzy Trash 97, and it's basically I've arranged the tracks in order I feel that's going to sound very good, and very simply we're going to put it together in Serato, and we're going to play it out live in a 1-hour set, and then I'll show you guys what I do from there. Alright, and so what this all ends up looking like is this setup right here. So as we saw earlier, we had the iTunes list that I was making, and it's loaded directly into Serato Pro, which is what I use as my general DJing software. Some people use Tractor, some people use Rekordbox. I use Rekordbox when I'm playing on CDJs. Some people will use Virtual DJ. There's a million of them out there. This just happens to be what works for me best. So this is the program that I use. And now, so we're going to go through a little bit of the equipment that I have in my quote-unquote studio right now. So when I'm doing my podcast, when I'm doing the actual mix, the 1-hour mix, I'm using my own personal console. It's a DDJ's SR from Pioneer. I've had it for about 2 years. I absolutely love it. It does everything I need to do. It's kind of like a toned down version of the SX, if you're familiar with DJ equipment. And in addition to my Pioneer mixer, I have everything connected to a Fender, basically a Fender guitar amp that I bought all the way back in 2011 for about $100. And granted, it's not, a high-quality studio speaker. I would never use this for mixdowns and productions. It does pack a bit of a punch, and it does what I need to do for a lot of smaller events that I do whenever sound systems are not required of me. And, of course, so this is, I guess, my total setup. I use a DJ stand that was given to me by my sister for Christmas from Pile, which is excellent. I actually have it set up pretty high right now. Usually I have it one setting lower. And so that's kind of my whole setup, my home setup at least. A lot of times when I'm going out to clubs, there will be a setup there for me, usually in the form of a CDJ setup, which are always the best. And for that, I use Rekordbox software loaded onto a USB disc. And also here, this is kind of the bag I use. I don't have any professional DJ case, which I should probably look into getting because it's safer. But I use these. I'll use the bottom half to carry the actual mixer as well as the stand torn down. And here I just have tons and tons of wires, even microphones and things of that nature. So now, just to get back to, also got this present for Christmas as well for my family. I kind of like it. It's a little metallurgy going on here. Kind of a little DJ guy they made for me. I thought that was really neat. And EDC glasses I paid way too much money for in New York City a year ago. And one thing I want to actually point out is that I actually use Beats by Dre, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate from this, but because Beats by Dre are known for kind of being inferior quality, but for a much higher price, and one of the biggest drawbacks people say is that it breaks really easily. And I've certainly had issues in the past. As you can see, it's all duct taped up, and there's all different kinds of tape keeping it together. But that being said, I've had this guy since early 2012, and it's been working for 5 years. And I've said that I'd probably go to a Bose, or if I had money, even a Steinheiser once this breaks down, but it just keeps going, and it works rather well for me, so I'm happy with it at the moment. And you kind of have to own it. So whatever works, works. And one thing that's going to be very important, I'm going to point this out, is that as you can see right now, this is kind of the levels that you want. As you can see, this is kind of the gain control, and this shows kind of I wouldn't say the volume, but it shows the input of music going into the system. Now, the problem is you'll see a lot of DJs will do this. If you see, professional mixers, is turn the gain all the way up, and you see something called redlining, which is what you're seeing right there. Now, this track doesn't really redline that much, which is great, but what this does is it kind of, from a sound engineering standpoint, it ruins the amount of room you have to make adjustments. It ruins the sound quality. It can break speakers. So it's always very important, especially at this stage, to make sure I'm not going above the yellow as it is now. So kind of this kind of setup right here, where just hitting yellow just barely, is perfect. And I keep the master very low. So in fact, it's so low right now because the master is only at about like 9 o'clock, a little bit past, because I can really crank this if I want to, because this speaker really pumps, and that's like 40%. So this thing can really get up there in terms of volume. And as you can see, I live in an apartment, so I rarely go beyond this volume here. So one kind of characteristic of DJs when we're playing live with our software is that we always like to have our hot cues set on our music. And briefly to explain what a hot cue is, it's just basically a bookmark, if you will. I only have two set up for the track in deck A right here, and that's also going to be featured in the podcast today. That's Good Job by Adrian Hour, as this kind of refocuses. And you can see the red arrow and the yellow arrow, and those are two cues I have set up. And if you can look at the wavelength above, you have the red arrow kind of at the beginning and the yellow near the end, or near kind of like the end of the beginning, kind of, I'd say like about a minute in. And the reasoning for that is, let me just turn the volume up here. Oop, didn't go there because I don't have it playing. You can still hear it coming up from the headphones, so we'll turn that off and get that going right there. And the reason for that is, so I have a cue set up, a hot cue set up for the very beginning of the song. And what hot cues are, I can control on these pads here. So I have 8 options. The two lit up represent the 2 hot cues I already have set. So what this means, so what I just did is I just kept, it sends me back to that exact point in the song, the beginning of the song. So it looks like this if I do it again on the screen. And if you ever see a DJ just kind of tapping buttons here, you can do the same with, so we'll go back here. You'll see a slot, and I do, with the main cue button right here. So we just set that as a cue button. And what I do a lot here is, this is how we beat match. So, and what beat matching is just making sure that the tempo of each song goes together so that the transition between tracks is seamless, and that it doesn't sound like, as we describe it, shoes at a washing machine. So we'll basically tap the tempo in when we're hearing the other track, which is why we have headphones. And we're ready. We'll hold that down, And this right down here is the play button, which I don't have to explain how that works. So I'm holding this down, hit this button, and now we're playing. So now as you can see on the top is the first track playing. And what I'm going to show you what looks like is without the records not beat matched at all. Both are at the same tempo. They're both at 124 beats per minute. So, but right now they're not matched at all. So it's going to look like this. And that sounds terrible. In fact, it sounds absolutely awful. Now for that I have a hot cue set for that very first one. So I can just keep doing this until I'm satisfied. So it's still a little bit off, but I can correct that based on, understanding that I did it a little bit too late. So just bring it back a little bit. And now you can hear there are two songs being played. So so now you didn't hear much coming from this track on beat 2. You can kind of hear it coming in now is because electronic music, especially tech house tracks, have long intros with kind of just the drums coming in. So continuing what I was discussing with hot cues and why we have them is the second reason is that you see I have a hot cue set, a second one set, and what that is that if I start at the regular one, the very first hot cue is just that same little beat going over and over again. And as you've heard, I've kind of had that on a loop for a little bit of a little while. As this continues, the second one acts as a bookmark, so I know that about a minute and 1 minute and about 2 seconds in, which at this tempo is about, is about 32 bars. And 32 bars is kind of how we count music. We count music in 4s and 8s. So 4 bars, 8 bars, 16 bars are critical counts. Because timing is so critical when you're doing transitions. And what that bookmark kind of tells me is that that's where I've set, kind of a turning point in the track so it gets out of the intro. So it's kind of, getting towards it. So I'm just going to hit the second cue in 3, 2, 1. And you kind of hear that little voiceover that came over as good job. Like that. And the idea is you never want vocals overlapping over your music. So that's kind of like my alert of I have to get out of the whatever track I'm playing now by that moment. So it acts as a bookmark, and a lot of people will set. Alright, so we've just started recording the podcast, episode 97, coming to you right now. So we've just started, we're only 44 seconds in. A lot of times what I like to do is test the effects. I don't use effects too much during my podcast, but I like to test, make sure they work, so... And this song has a long intro, so I can test everything. So I'll sign this back to deck 1 as well. So both of those are high pass filters, and we even have a phaser, which I used to use a lot early in my career. And this beats grid kind of controls like the wavelength of the effect. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, episode 97 has been recorded, and at least the music part at least. The rest, the voiceovers and all the editing will be done later, and we'll show you that in just a moment. But for right now, I'm going to go take myself a little bit of a nap and enjoy some downtime. Alright, so as you guys can see, I've been enjoying relaxing my day today. Have some downtime. It's the evening now, which is when I love to do my editing. but there's one crucial thing I have to do before I start editing. So the most important thing that we need before we start editing our podcast is margaritas, chips, and salsa at, what is this place? Mi Rancho's in Silver Spring with one Mi Rancho's? I don't know. I'm getting advice from my Chamorro best friend, Natalie. How many Chamorros friends do you guys have? Probably none, because I don't know how many people from Guam that you know.
There's only 160,000 of us on the island, so, you know, chances are.
She's exotic and she's single.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I thought you were going to say ladies.
I was like, wait, I should
We'll edit that out. Just kidding, we're absolutely not editing that out. There's no chance.
It's alright, it's alright. What kind? I've never had a banana margarita.
What would a banana margarita even taste like is my question. And what is like a standard Mi Rancho margarita?
It's probably like the Shenanigans.
Oh,
margarita, like
the San Ans
Corona.
one? Got it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A little tacky that our margaritas are already like over halfway gone, but
Well, there was like no alcohol in there. I'm pretty sure that's just like giant brand margarita mix, like with some strawberry like blend thrown in there.
hey,
I've yet to taste alcohol.
I have almost an entire bottle of Jose Cuervo at home.
Well, at least we got cajetas, fried ice cream, gentlemen. So yeah, we just killed that cajeta. That being said, though, our margs we're pretty sure had like little to no alcohol, so we got wine. Because I came for an alcohol. Did you come for an alcohol?
I came for an alcohol.
So we want an alcohol, and so we got an alcohol. So, I mean, I make good friends with pretty much everyone, you know, I think, like, I'm a friendly guy and all that stuff, but, if you do not like this song, like, I don't know if we can be friends, to be honest with you. I'm sorry. Alright, so we just got back from the restaurant. Now we're going to take things a little more seriously, have my fun. You have to excuse me. This, in the past 5 or 6 weeks, this has been only my second day off, so in the meantime, I'm trying to make music. I was trying to enjoy myself a little bit. But now I'm going to show you guys how I edit my podcasts. So a lot of people who have podcasts for themselves, DJs such as Hardwell, Tiesto, you name it, a lot of them use Ableton as their software for editing and even making their own podcasts. Now, I actually use GarageBand, which is something that a lot of you may be familiar with, and I don't feel there's any shame with it. It's just a very simple editing software for me. Everything's very simple, the interface is very easy to use, and the quality is just as good for what I'm trying to do. So earlier I was making a big deal about not redlining during my mixes, and the reason for that is that, especially, you know, besides what I said earlier, you can break speakers during live sets and it distorts the sound. Another big reason is that when I'm editing software, a big issue that we have when you're transferring a file from GarageBand or Ableton and compressing it into an MP3 file is that you lose some of the volume when you're doing so. So kind of in order to make up for it, I have to kind of crank the volume on this track and on the edit all the way up on the master and on just each individual kind of channel that we have here. So that's why it's very important to stay, to stay kind of comfortable within a good limit so that there's not too much sound, too much data going through. The volume's not too heavy going through because there's going to be a lot of compression going on at the very end. So just to start here, we use 3 channels usually, occasionally 4, but that's in extreme examples. So the way it works is the following. So let me just mute the 3rd channel here. What I have loaded in the 3rd channel is the actual recording that we made earlier, the 1-hour set that I played. So we're going to mute that a second, and what I have above is an intro that I used to every single Jerzy Trash podcast. And if you listen to the podcast, you'll recognize it very quickly. So we'll just play it real quick.
DJ Dirty Jerz is in the building.
With the best electro and progressive house from the past, present, and future.
Hey guys, this is DJ Dirty Jerz, and you are listening to Jerzy Trash.
Only on Invisible Sound Radio.
And of course, if you recognize that voice, it's because you heard the person who made that voice, Adriana Del Castillo, earlier in the video today as well. So that's the intro I use for every single episode. And what I do from here on is I'll do my own talking bit, as you guys have seen. It probably shows in the podcast that I do that I don't have any notes or anything. I just kind of go off the cuff and say whatever I feel I need to say at that time. I used to kind of do a script kind of thing, but it got to a point where I felt that wasn't even necessary. And though I kind of stutter, say a million times, which I've already done during this vlog, I feel that it's more organic, and it's a little bit lazy on my part, but there's no need to make anything scripted, in my opinion. So what we're going to do now is we're going to record the part of the podcast in which I have to do the voiceover at the very beginning. So I'll show you guys what I do for that. So to record the voiceover, it's very simple. I have everything set to about, let's see, we'll go right about 10 and a half bars in, so about 10 and a half measures if you count that way. And that's where we're going to start the actual voiceover. So, and then we go down here, just hit record, and I just speak into the microphone. Make sure the microphone recording level on the right-hand side, which I don't think you can see, is turned all the way up. And now we are going to record. So let's see how it sounds. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into episode 97 of Jerzy Trash live from Washington, D.C. It's crazy that we've gotten this far. We're getting really close to episode 100, which is going to be the episode 100 takeover that we're going to have on May 12th. We've got a lineup of phenomenal artists, about 12 to be exact, and I'm really excited for that. We're going to be in... So this happens a lot. A lot of times I have to re-record or kind of edit what I say because I'll screw up or forget what to say afterwards. So for example, I kind of messed up here, but that's just a simple edit. Take this part out at the bottom, and then just Control X, and we're out, and I can record from where last time I started off.
We'll find it. So for now, just get ready for an hour of nothing but tech house. This is Dirty Jerz, and you are listening to Jerzy Trash, only on Invisible Sound Radio.
So now that I've finished recording the vocal sample that will be at the intro, I'm going to show you why we have this second channel right here. So if you look closely, and if this zooms in properly, you can see that we have the volume on channels 1 and 3 turned all the way up, as well as our master volume at the bottom. But however, the one in the middle, we're going to move down a bit. And the reason for that is that we only use this in the very beginning. And the reason for that is that if we play this at the same time, the recording of the music over the recording of the vocal sample at the same volume, they'll kind of overlap a little bit, and we used to have this problem in the very first episode. So I'll just show you real quick an example of what it would sound like without any volume control whatsoever.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into episode 97 of Jerzy Trash live.
So it's actually not that bad because the drums in the very beginning of this track are pretty low key and they're not very heavy. But what we're going to do is we're going to move all the way forward to right at the very end here. So as you can see, the drums and my own voice are kind of overlapping very heavily. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here at channel 3, at where my vocal ends and the rest of the recording continues, and we're going to just kind of take and select the bottom half, move it all the way back to the very beginning, as far back as it goes, still going back. It was a long intro I did. So right about here, and we're just going to do copy and paste. So copy that, and then get rid of it. We're going to move back to the beginning, go over here, go into the second channel, and paste it there. And that way, it's going to sound not quite as loud. At least,
Electro and progressive house from the past, present, and future.
So there, it's not going to sound very loud when I kind of overlap the vocals, especially right here where the kick of the other track picks up. So here you go, you can hear my voice going over, and but the track is still playing below without it kind of being dominant. And so this will continue for a little bit as the vocal continues until right about here.
This is Dirty Jerz, and you are listening to Jerzy Trash, only on Invisible Sound Radio.
And right there, the actual recording itself will take over. So the last thing we have to do for really editing this track is we have to take a part of the intro as a vocal sample that we're going to use for station identification throughout the episode. And the reason, and we do that so that, you know, if you tune in later in the podcast, there'll be a few times, about 4 or 5 times per podcast where you'll hear a station identification, what show you're listening to, and all it is really is going to the very beginning. So we'll just mute this real quick. Go to channel 1, and it's this section right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to copy that. And then we identify sections within the track, the recording itself, where it kind of breaks down a little bit, or maybe there's a transition. I will admit that I've sometimes put over parts where I felt that I made an error or whatever it is. But basically, kind of times, especially where it gets quiet, I try to do it every couple of songs, the station identification. So right here, I identified at 3:47 a place we can put it. So we'll insert it right here. So if we're going in the middle of the recording here, you'll hear it come in properly, and that'll be the station identification, and you'll know that you're listening to Jerzy Trash on Invisible Sound Radio with DJ Dirty Jerz.
Hey guys, this is DJ Dirty Jerz, and you are listening to Jerzy Trash.
Only on Invisible Sound Radio.
And so I basically will just identify a few more places within here in which I can do that, and then we'll be all set. Alright, so here's the finished product, and this is kind of what it looks like on my software when it's all said and done. As you can see in the very top channel over here, we have our opening intro that was developed in the very first episode, and the sound bites that I took out of that to use for station identification that I peppered in at random points throughout the episode. Here, the third channel here is kind of the actual recording itself, whereas the second channel here is the kind of toned down version so that you can hear the vocals that I set over the top of the recording. And now, this is one of those rare times that we actually created a fourth channel. So I noticed that on the original recording, it was definitely way too loud for the opening track. So what I did was I turned the volume down that, created a fourth channel, and took the vocals that we created today, which are admittedly a little bit quieter, and made its own separate channel that goes at full volume. And so all this together, we've put it at the top volume that we can. And what we're going to do now is later on in a couple days, I'm going to share this to iTunes as an MP3 file, and then send it over to the radio station, and it will air on next Friday, which should be April 21st at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and you guys will get to listen to that. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, and that is it for the very first Dirty Jerz vlog. Right now, the podcast, episode 97, is mixing down the back right now. It's compressing, my laptop's compressing the file, so it can be sent over to the radio station, be aired next Friday. So, thank you guys so much for staying in this long and tuning in. I hope this provides some insight for you. I apologize for all the times to say and kind of, I'm not sure what to say, stutter a little bit. All this unscripted, I'm just going off the top of my head. So thank you guys so much for for joining me. This was a lot of fun to make, and it was fun taking you guys through a day kind of in my life when I'm not working, at least. So I'm actually going to be spending the next few days after tomorrow in New Jersey, and perhaps I might make a vlog for that as well, just to show you guys where I come from and kind of where I grew up and the roots, and hopefully you guys will get to meet some characters as well. In the meantime, this is Dirty Jerz, and this is the Dirty Jerz vlog. Thank you, and have a great night, and enjoy the music.